Hello, welcome to Be a Light with Mushan podcast. I have met many inspirational individuals across the platforms, across organizations. And in this past year, I have the privilege, have the honor to meet with one of the exceptional leaders who is our chief DEI officer at Marsh McLennan Agency, Kira Kimball. And I'm so glad that today I have her on my show. Kira, welcome.
I am thrilled to be with you today. Thanks so much for the invitation.
I have been wanting to share your light with the people around me because I have been empowered by your power, by your encouragement, your support over the last year. And would you like to share a little bit of your background, how you landed to your current role as the Chief DEI Officer?
I would be delighted to. I have been in the insurance industry for about 16 years. I actually started my career journey in higher education. So I had the opportunity to teach, to advise, to counsel, build student leadership development programming, mentor programming for many underrepresented students. And I spent about a decade there. And that's really how I got my first steps into diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I have a very unique journey from higher education into the insurance industry. And my sister was actually the CFO of Sanford Health Plan here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And she was hiring just for a temporary position as her admin was on maternity leave. And she said to me, Kira, I know you moved back home. You left higher education. You wanted to be closer to family. And I'm wondering if you might want to be my admin for 3 months because I know you're going to meet someone who's going to hire you. And Mujang, she was right. So I worked and I made a whole bunch of binders for my binder queen sister, and someone offered me a job in the insurance industry. And so I was excited to learn new things and to have an opportunity to grow some skills, but also to transfer the skills that I learned in higher ed. And that began my journey. And then people learned what I could do. And I got hired in to start kind of a consulting arm within the Office of the Dakotas around organizational development, leadership development, culture building for our clients. So that created my on-ramp. And then in 2018, our chairman and CEO at MMA, Dave Eslick, went through an unconscious bias workshop. And I was able to raise my hand when he said, MMA, we want to start our journey. Who would like to help? So my initial on-ramp, Mujang, was as a volunteer, as many of our MMA colleagues are. And I started to help develop the original Enterprise DE&I Council. And that's where my journey began. And then a few years later, I was promoted into this first role as the DE&I leader for MMA.
Wow, that's amazing. Your journey is definitely proves that raising your hand to the right opportunities, take the challenges as opportunities. You definitely set a good example for many of us to follow. And also, I could tell why you are so good at mentoring others and supporting others as your background as the higher education background. That's amazing. It's always good that different background always playing into your current role, and also how much you're willing to contribute to that role. And over last year, I have witnessed how involved you are in so many programs. And one of the programs I still remember, and that's how I got to connect with you, is the allyship program you conducted, and you probably also developed that. I was so impressed by how much you care, and also how where you understand the different perspectives from different people, where you are a white female, and probably that takes a lot of effort and the willingness to develop the level of understanding of DEI. Would you like to share a little bit how your journey actually contributed to this understanding?
Yes, I would love to. And you're right. I think that sometimes folks are surprised when they meet me and they physically see me and see this is a white woman leading diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And I acknowledge I've got to build some credibility, and that's important. And so when colleagues and friends like you create a space for me to talk about my journey and my investment in learning and growing my skills and understanding, it helps with that credibility. So that is a lot about what my journey has been, is being curious, being genuinely interested in learning about people who identify differently than I do in so many ways. You and I, Mujang, know that our identities are so complex. And so I have a lot of interest in educating myself. And so that's where I've leaned in. And when I talk about our journey, while we do many things in larger groups and through our colleague resource groups or our councils, really where the opportunity is these intimate relationships, these one-on-one ways for us to build relationship and get to know each other. So I think I can model that curiosity and that genuine interest in learning about someone for others who are leaning into our journey. And when we model curiosity, what we do is we suspend suspicion, we suspend judgment, and instead just get really interested. And I think that those kind of characteristics have suited me very well in building relationship within the firm.
Yeah, that's amazing. The sense of curiosity about others and the willingness to learn about others, that's a wonderful quality as an excellent leader like you leading the DEI efforts. And also, how did you see the importance of the education of DEI at a workplace such as ours, Marsh McLennan Agency? Because I'm personally benefited from it. I love it. During our yearly review, my manager asked me what I love about my job the most. I said it's the company culture. Wherever I am at, I feel comfortable. I feel safe to share my opinions, my ideas, to show the authentic self. So would you share a little bit about this importance of the DEI and this company culture?
Absolutely. And I know whenever I'm teaching some DE&I education and you are on, I know I'm going to get encouragement in the chat, which is really what I appreciate. But we have foundational education that is critical for all of our colleagues to really lean into because it helps us understand ourselves. When I think about our unconscious bias workshop as an example, it is tailored to our colleagues to help them gain some heightened self-awareness. And when we have some insight about who we are as people, and when we understand that having unconscious bias is simply human, we all have them, it really helps us learn how we might be able to take a more inclusive path forward in the places that we influence. So what I love about our education is it's not in a learning management system, as you know. It is a workshop that it's delivered, whether it's unconscious bias, you mentioned allyship, we also have inclusive leadership. Real colleagues are teaching. And there's also this value of peer-to-peer education, as opposed to bringing someone from the outside. Now, there are times when we want to bring someone from the outside, of course, but when we do this work together, when we have shared experiences around learning, shared language, shared content, that's when we can all really unite around the why that we're on this journey together, the value and the importance it brings to the success of our organization as a business, but also the 10,000 colleagues within our firm, how you and I feel about coming to work and knowing, like you mentioned, that you can be who you are wholly and celebrated for the uniqueness that each of us brings, that we can harness that for the betterment of the company as well.
I totally agree. The positive, supportive company culture such as ours elevates everyone's potential and creates the space for us to cultivate our potential. And definitely we'll have the collective success, which is much greater than the individual ones. Yeah, I loved this space that the DEI efforts contributed to at Marsh McLennan Agency. And also I see how positive you are and how calm you are. You really model that. Every time when I talk to you, I just felt a great sense of joy from you. And also it transferred to me, like the graciousness and how you developed to the level of your positivity and this gratitude, this joy.
Wow, I will reflect that right back at you. You emanate joy and positivity too. So you and I are two peas in a pod that way, Mujang. But for me, it's probably been over 15 years when I was really thinking about my own personal brand, how I want to show up in the workplace, outside of the workplace. And I chose 3 words, and this is how I make decisions. This is how I turn the Zoom camera on, how I meet people. Joy. I want to be joyful. That is something that I practice and that I'm committed to. I also want to be encouraging, and that has a lot to do with why I try my best to support all of us. And then finally, I want to be generous. I want to be generous in my energy. I want to be generous in my time, in my spirit. So those are just 3 things early on that I said, this is who I'm going to be, because I value those 3 characteristics. I think it brings a lot of optimism into the spaces that I exist in. And as you know, it's important to have hope and optimism in doing this work of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and believing that there's real transformation that can happen, again, for the greater good of us as a company, but also the ways in which we impact the community. So I think I'm just committed to those 3 things, Mujang. That's how I want to show up.
I love that. I know how important the personal brand would be, and that really attracts different people that like your personal brand. But when you put it into words, it made it visual and more measurable. So I love that. You definitely live to your standard as this personal brand. I felt the joy. I felt this encouragement and the third
Generosity.
Yeah, generosity. Definitely, I felt that every time when I have the conversation with you, and wherever I see your post on LinkedIn or somewhere, I just saw those qualities in your words of wisdom and also the impact that you create around you. I loved that. We need to work on the personal brand. Follow your footprint.
Thank you.
Yeah. So there's also the mentorship program. Like recently, again, I'm so honored to be selected to be one of the lucky mentees. Thank you. The mentor program for the colored colleagues. Why this is important?
Yes, this is
You contributed so much, yeah, to this program.
it is near and dear to my heart and so important to our journey. And when we think about our industry, the insurance industry, when we think about our organization, one of our opportunities is really representation. And it's so important that we not only have colleagues of color who are joining us, but that they can have the opportunity to rise to all positions within our organization. So having a very intentional mentor program for our colleagues of color as mentees to be attached with a mentor who is a senior regional level or corporate level leader is about creating visibility, is about advancing networks, is about connecting with influential leaders in the organization that might have access to spaces where our colleagues of color might not. So the goal is really for those mentors to come alongside their mentee and help support that career trajectory. Equally important, and this is why we create a safe space for these relationships, is for our colleagues of color to talk about what it might be like to be a person of color within the organization and to speak some truth about maybe barriers or obstacles that they can experience. And what we've seen in our first cohort, which we did in 2023, is that our mentors learned as much, frankly, if not more, than the mentees. So that has been a multiplying effect to not only impact the career trajectory and the support for our colleagues of color, but also for our mentors to even get more involved in the value and the importance of our DE&I journey. And my hope is that I can expand these mentoring opportunities to other identities within our organization. But as you know, we can't do it all at once. So this was a great next step on our journey.
I loved that, to be one of the colored colleagues. I'm so grateful for this program. It's almost as if it's customed and personalized space for us to amplify our impact, our contribution, and our learning opportunities. And I loved this opportunity. Again, thank you so much on behalf of all the other colored colleagues. And this is definitely leading the industry and the world to a better place. During our last conversation, I remember you mentioned about self-care also plays an important role in your life. Would you like to share a little bit about self-care?
I would. It is so important, no matter what role a person plays in an organization, as an individual contributor, as an executive making decisions that impact the whole organization. It is so important that we give ourselves permission to unplug from the world of work, to really have a boundary, to take care in a way that each of us chooses. So for me, being a DE&I leader, there's a lot of complexities in this work, and there's emotion and values and so many things to navigate. I know for myself that while there's so much work to do, I can't be my best self if I'm always doing the work. So it is important for me to step away, as it is for all of your listeners, to find a way to turn outside of work and find joy and to find relaxation. So for me, exercise is really a critical part of that. And to have discipline, even though I know, okay, it's quitting time, I could keep going. I've got to have the discipline to say, no, I'm going to get on my bike or I'm going to the gym to lift some weights. I'm thankful to have a partner who's my accountability partner in this self-care. That's critical for us to have someone that's going to say it's important. I also start my day in quiet, Mujang. That's really important for me. And that usually means I go downtown to a coffee house and For me, downtown is like a 15-minute easy drive in smaller Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So it's easy for me to do that, but I like to listen to a podcast or just kind of gather my thoughts for the day. I like to have fun. I love to dance. I love to play Pokemon Go. So it's
Oh,
important for us to not have any self-judgment about how we take care of ourselves, that we do something that, whether it helps us to be physically active, spiritually active, mentally active, whatever that looks like, or just to have some fun, it's so important. And that includes taking our PTO. So if take some vacation time, give yourself permission to unplug, develop a hobby. We could have a whole conversation about this because I am a firm believer about self-care is really about prioritizing my energy. And if I don't take care of myself, I'm not going to show up great for you or for anybody else.
yeah, I love that. And also I felt that whenever we had the colleague resource event, and this is one of the topics we brought up time and after time, many of the leaders modeled this mindset, this self-care importance in mind, and encouraged the colleagues to focus on their well-being and then have a better version to show up at work. This is definitely for long-term, this is because when the leaders like you have a longer vision, but to some people, I know I want to give you a challenging question. To some people, I know there are some people who may not really give a lot of credit to DEI and or to have this kind of supportive environment. They would think work is work, get it done, go home, or something like that. And no, they don't value a lot of the human connections or the relationship building. Is there any way how you influence this type of people?
Yes, it's a great question and important in this day and age in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And you're right, if we were especially having this conversation maybe 25 years ago, people would say, you know, leave your personal stuff at the threshold when you come into the office and come here and be the worker. So that used to be a thing in the world of work, but I think the last 5 or so years, especially, has changed a lot of that. When we moved through the pandemic, there was so much about giving us opportunities because we were at home to reflect on what's important to us and what is the perspective that we have about the world of work, because work and home got so combined. So a lot of folks really remembered what was important during that time and what their values are, who the people they care about are. And that's shown up as we turn the corner from the pandemic and are more in our workplaces again. That's become really important. And I would also argue there's some generational differences here. When we think about attracting early and new talent, Gen Zers, this is important to them. In fact, when I speak with early talent coming into our profession or even just in my community, DE&I, social impact, caring for our communities, caring for one another, it's table stakes for early talent. It is something that they expect. There are so much data around it, how younger people make decisions about who their employer could be. So when I talk with colleagues who are like, Kira, I just don't get it. Can we just not come in and I want to hit my goals for, you know, whatever I do within the organization. I say, you're going to hit those goals even better as a committed partner on this journey, because we know that diverse perspectives, opinions, values, experiences enrich our ability to innovate and to solve problems, no matter the industry. So there's a real business case if someone can't quite get to the heart case and the reason why it's so important from a people case. So that's typically the way I try to get to a person who says, oh, I don't want another education session, and I just want to come here and do the work that I have on my plate. I remind them it'll even be better as we commit to this journey, and to remember when they're trying to fill their account executive team or their new sales leader role, that early talent, this is important to them. So attracting talent, it's valuable for our organization to commit to it, as well as the colleagues who are within our walls. They want to know that they can be themselves 100%. They don't have to hide part of their identity. In fact, that they're valued for the diversity that they bring to our organization.
I 100% agree. With so many female leaders, or so many leaders actually in different age groups from our organization, are all very encouraging, and they all have a wonderful, busy life, and also can do their executive level job well, also entry level job well. That's because they bring the full self into work when they work, and they don't feel restrained by the time frame. It's about the value, what they can bring to the organization. And such as you and me, when we work, we definitely 200% put into work. But when we needed to relax, we can feel we will have this guilty-free moment to enjoy our personal life. I loved this type of empowerment. As yesterday at the reflection on women's leadership panel discussion, and thanks to you for recommending that to me for the opportunity. I shared the empowered people are willing to empower others, and the empowered people are so much more productive and so much more willing to contribute.
Oh, you are so right about that.
Yeah.
And when you feel empowered, you are bringing all of your gifts and talents with high levels of energy, high levels of engagement and outcomes and impacts. And so much of that has to do with, I don't have to take energy to hide part of myself. I don't have to be tentative and protective. I can just bring all of me here. And that's when you and I can call on our colleagues sometimes when we need that discretionary effort. You know, Kira, can you stay just a little bit longer on this call so I can talk through this document with you? Or can you come in a little bit early to stuff some packets for this client? Whatever that might be, when we feel valued and safe, when we have that psychological safety, we are here and committed. And then we get to be part of high performing teams. And it's so much more fun to be part of a high performing team instead of, oh boy, I've got to show up to that meeting, right? I mean, that's not encouraging and invigorating. But when we're at a high performing team, we're just ready to give. And that to me is exciting. It really is, to be able to make more impact because of it.
I agree. The more we connect, the more authentic we feel ourselves. To be able to show up as the true selves is a very liberating feeling. That's how I felt. For years, I didn't have this feeling, but until I got to our company, I felt so empowered by leaders like you. Then I really don't have the fear of sharing my thoughts, my ideas. And whenever there's a need for me to raise my hand, I raise my hand. Wherever my voice needs to be heard, I speak up. So this is so important.
And I really celebrate all that you share. And I'm so grateful for your affirmation about the culture that we have, because you're right. And when an organization doesn't create that psychological safety where you feel like you can share your thoughts and your ideas and raise your hand, we might be missing out on the best innovations because a colleague said, I'm too afraid. I'm too afraid to bring that. And that could be the next new great insurance thing. So it's so important that we create that space so you can raise your hand and bring your wonderful innovations and creativity and best thinking forward, because we benefit from it when you do, Mujang.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's the ripple effect of empowerment. Sometimes I see ripple effect of positivity. And once we create this supportive environment and we nurture the talents and also encourage people to be the best version themselves, and for the long term, it's a collective greater success for the individuals, for team, and for organization, and for the world as well.
I'm so glad this is recorded because that was just beautiful. That was wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Kira. Well, it's closing to our recording, and I mean, we can continue. No, we have so much to talk about, but I just want to respect your time. I know it's Friday and you had a long week. Are there any advice that you would like to share with the people who are listening to us about culture, about DI, about confidence, about speaking up, anything? I know you have so much to share.
Well, I just love always visiting you and our time together. And I want to talk just briefly about reverse mentorship. So your listening audience knows that we have a mentoring relationship together as well. And I think it's so important for everyone to know that mentors learn so much from their mentees. And I want you to know I learn so much from you, Mujang, whenever we are together. And that reverse mentorship always happens. So for your audience to know if they are in mentoring relationships, no matter the role that they play, that there is an exchange of learning and investment in one another, and that I'm grateful for you and how your reverse mentorship helps me grow as a leader and do better as well. So I just will leave with that.
Thank you so much, Kira. You are such a wonderful mentor. To be honest, you and Sharon are my first two mentors in my life. Like being officially be my mentor. I definitely gain the knowledge and the support from others, but having you both as the guiding lights in my journey and to empower me to be who I am today. I definitely feel so grateful for all the support and encouragement that you have provided in the past many months. And again, thank you so much for being on my show. And I hope the audience here, whether you're listening on the Spotify or YouTube or watching it on YouTube, I hope you can gain the light, the wisdom, the insights from my mentor, my dearest mentor, Kira. She is a light of me, and also she is willing to share the light in your life. So hope all of you get inspired to be the light to others, to make the better world because of your encouragement, your kindness, and your authenticity. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kira, again.
Thank you. What a wonderful time to be together.
Bye.